Hello? 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 Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JessinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's kind of odd right now because I just got back to my house and I've been away for a little bit and the camera setup and everything is a little bit weird, but we'll make it happen. Welcome guys. Welcome guys. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, all that stuff. So we could go ahead and get started. Yeah, you can kind of tell that I did my makeup in 5 seconds because there's a big lump of it right there. But who cares? Who cares? We are back. Welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. We're going to be talking about why Arsenal are the most unlikable team on the planet right now. And I'm here for it. I definitely am here for it. It's been seeping into the media for a while in the coverage of Arsenal. Here in the States, when I'm watching the games, a lot of the commentary around Arteta is, to me, strange. From the way that they describe how he is on the sideline to, them feeling like the dark arts that everybody does is somehow weird when we do it. It's so interesting. And I think that Arsenal are definitely a team that people are not liking at the moment, but I think that's a good thing. And that's going to be our kind of initial discussion here is why has the narrative around Arsenal changed? Last season, and at the beginning of this season, when we brought in new, young, exciting players, everybody was kind of okay with it. Now that these young and exciting players are starting to play really well and we're getting closer and closer to the top four, all of a sudden everything that we're doing is basically a crime. So I think that's a very interesting discussion to have amongst ourselves. Obviously, there'll be some rivals in the chat, which is great. I like to hear differences of opinion. So we'll talk about that as well as some transfer news. We have some news surrounding Aaron Hickey. That came out yesterday. I think I was one of the first people to tweet about it, and it came from Scott's something pod. I'll find it later when I find the tweet, but basically we have registered interest in Aaron Hickey, a 19-year-old fullback playing at Bologna. There's also rumors swirling around Arteta's want for Eddie Nketiah to stay until 2026. We're going to try one more time, or Arsenal is going to try one more time, and we'll have a discussion around whether or not that's the right thing to do at this stage of the project. Whatever you want to call it, at this stage of the project, is that what we should be doing? Also, Pablo Mari to Udinese looks like something that's going to take place at about 4 million. Arsenal have upped their valuation of Pablo Mari due to good performances, but Udinese seem very interested in getting that over the line. So we have some things to talk about in regards to the left center back position. And last but not least, Arsenal have reignited their interest in Lautaro Martinez. I think he's 24 years old, playing at Inter Milan, Argentinian striker. I find this link has always baffled me, this link. So we'll talk about what you guys think about that link and who do you ultimately want to see leading the line for Arsenal next season. There's a community poll going on right now, and I want you guys to go vote on it now. Who do you want to see lead the line? Lautaro Martinez, Gabriel Jesus, or Victor Osimhen? And here in the chat box, you guys can let me know whether or not you think it's viable, whether or not you think any of those names will end up at Arsenal. Is it too much? There are differences of opinions around how much money is actually going to be able to be spent this summer. And with Arsenal needing 2 strikers, 3 attackers, whatever, is it really viable to see Arsenal spending upwards of 70 million on one player? So those are, I want your thoughts and feelings on those topics. And so, yeah, but make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribe to the channel. There's about 80 of you guys here. I love it. Thank you guys. And I know I haven't been around lately. I've just got some personal things going on. That's all I really have to say about that. Also, if you've not checked out the mini podcast that I did with Poorly Drawn Arsenal, please check it out. His work is absolutely amazing. I'm sure you've seen it from Ars Blog and Arsenal Vision. He did a little mini podcast for me. He did one for Faisal from the Latte Firm, and I just love it. It's just the cutest thing ever. So check that out when you guys get a chance as well. Nashville says, weird title. This is the most likable team Arsenal have had in years. BX says, it's a rebuild. Arsenio says, hello, Jess. How are you doing? Came by the show to show love to the Gunner Empress. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Lucas says, unlikable is great. Fuel your game with anger and hate from the others and play with anger. That means you're alive and powerful. And I think we'll just start there. This team just doesn't seem to be a team that people like. And I don't know about you guys, if you've ever played sports at a significantly high level, or you have another team that you follow and they have a rival that's very good. But, as somebody that followed the Lakers growing up, I hated the Celtics. Like, I never liked them. If they're a team that's very good and deserves a lot of respect, but I hated them. They were not likable to me because they were the Lakers' direct rivals. I've never liked Manchester United, not even the best teams that they've had. Never liked them, respected them, but never liked them. They always seem unlikable to me. And even good players that they have on the team now, like somebody like Bruno Fernandes, he's very unlikable to me, but I'm sure that he's a player that a lot of Manchester United players really like. And so, or Manchester United fans really like. And so I don't really feel like this tag of being unlikable is a bad thing. I actually think it's a good thing for Arsenal. So here you'll see that this tweet on the left is coming from David Moisio. And he basically said, he or she said, Arteta has made this the most unlikable Arsenal team ever. And I was like, inject it. Like, first of all, West Ham, did you expect us to let you win? Were we like, what did we do in that game that was so unlikable beyond winning? We didn't have our strongest team. You had damn near your strongest team out there. By the end of the game, you had your strongest team out there. And don't be mad at us. Be mad at David Moyes for taking a risk that didn't pay off. I don't know if they expected us to just say, you know what? We know that you guys are in the Europa League semifinals and you guys really want to win it. But Moyes wants you guys to win this game too, so you guys can stay, in European competition through the league. So we're just going to let you guys win this one. And we're not going to fight for it at all. I didn't see any of our players doing anything nasty or anything. I know that Nketiah and Declan Rice got into it during the game. Newsflash, that's what happens during a game. It's so normal. It's actually weird to see players not getting into it, in my opinion. They've known each other since they were 9. They probably texted each other after the game and laughed about it. I don't see that as being unlikable. If you don't like Aaron Ramsdale because he winds up the crowd, I don't know if you guys know, like in the stands, the fans are talking so much shit to him. What is he supposed to do? Just sit there and say, you know what? Actually, that's okay. Like, it's odd. It's weird. Like, Arsenal have done nothing different than anybody else. But what I will say is that this team is nothing like teams of the last maybe 10 years that have never said anything, never stood up for each other. There were times in the last couple of years where one of our players would go down off of a bad challenge. from another team's player, and nobody would surround the ref, nobody would surround the player, nobody would do anything. And yeah, we were fun to play against. I'm sure we were a team that a lot of teams like to play against because we were soft, we didn't fight for each other, we didn't fight to win, we didn't do anything. And so if there was any sort of adversity, we would just fold. And in this game, there was some adversity. We weren't at our best. Our touch was not great. But in the end of the day, that team worked very hard to get the 3 points. None of our goals were goals that should not have stood. I know that, West Ham fans were feeling as though they should have gotten Ramsdale should have gotten sent off. When you rewatched it, from the different angle, Jared Bowen didn't even get touched. He's also somebody that's known for diving. So, he's not very likable in that sense either. And the handball that they wanted off of Rob Holding was very soft. And if it had happened the other way around, I'm sure they wouldn't have wanted their player to get sent off for something that soft, that kind of handball. So it's kind of like, are we unlikable, or did you not do enough to beat us? Is that what it is? And with the whole celebrations thing, Chris Sutton, this is a tweet that went out. Look at the amount of likes on that shit. Like, there's clearly a lot of people that believe this narrative around Arsenal celebrating like they've won the league. I watched the game and I waited until the very end just to see this point because I wanted to see Arsenal celebrating like they won the league. And I didn't see it. Like, it was nowhere near the celebrations that came after Wolves, nowhere near the celebrations that came after Aston Villa. It was very much the team hugging each other and going to the away fans and clapping them, which is what you should do. So how on earth are we celebrating like we won the league? Charles Watts from Goal also mentioned this and quote tweeted the Arsenal clip of the players just clapping the away fans. And I'm just like, is that celebrating like we won the league? Not only are our celebrations being policed, but they're being over exaggerated for clicks. And it's just a joke at this point. And everything that Arsenal does for some reason is seen as some sort of crime or different than any other team. And it makes absolutely no sense. And for me, when you just see a young team like this, where I can't name any players except for Thomas Partey. It's Thomas Partey, maybe Granit Xhaka when he first came to Arsenal, who have been fighting for anything significant in the league. Thomas Partey obviously in a different league. So this is the first time that Bukayo Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe and Martinelli are fighting for something. This is the first time Ramsdale, Ben White to a certain extent because he won the championship with Leeds, but that's different than fighting for top four with Arsenal. So this is the first time a lot of these players are playing at a high level on a really good team where they're fighting for something really important at the beginning of a significant project. And so what are they fucking supposed to do? Like, I don't understand this. They're so unlikable because they celebrate, because they win games, because you don't feel like we deserve the wins that we get. It's just such an odd thing. And I just feel like what the underlying issue here is that this is a team that's not going to be walked over. So why are Arsenal being depicted this way? Why is Arteta looked at as a manager that's out of control on the sideline when you see other managers like Klopp, like Conte acting in very similar ways, but they're geniuses? Is it just because that they've won more, or is it because Arteta hasn't earned the right to express himself on the sideline? The thing about Arteta is that he is giving, you can never question him giving 110% out there. He's not going to ask his players to give that amount of effort and passion that he's not willing to give. And because he's basically the captain on the sideline, he's one of our senior players, because we don't have many, he has to act in a way to get his players up for matches. He has to be up for it so that the players are up for it. He has to transmit that energy. And so, yeah, when he's on the sideline, he does look like somebody who is just on the edges, very outside of his technical area. But even him doing those things have resulted in a goal. It's not even just the goal against Watford. There are times where he is literally orchestrating that team from start to finish, and the the decisions that he's making and the instructions that he's giving them are not just him screaming like a banshee. It's him pushing them over the line. Sometimes they score goals off of those just little things that he does. And so I just find it weird that he's being depicted as some madman, that doesn't have the right to be being that animated on the sideline when other managers can do it. I just don't think they like this team because they're not willing to lay on the ground and just let it go. They're not like the teams of old that are just go through a couple of, because I'm sorry, old Arsenal teams would have lost them 3 games and then continued to lose. They enjoyed an Arsenal team that could be beaten down, that wouldn't turn around and stand up for themselves, that would cave at the little, sign of adversity. And so now they're being depicted as this over celebrating, overly excited, naive, silly team with a psycho for a manager, when we're just fighting. We're just fighting. Arsenal are not doing anything different than anybody else. It's just we're not a team that people are okay with being successful. If you ask most rivals at this point, who would they prefer to get into the top 4, Spurs or Arsenal? They would choose Spurs, not because they feel like they deserve it, but because they don't want to have to hear. They don't want to have to hear from Arsenal fans. They know a good Arsenal is not good for them because a good Spurs and a good Arsenal are 2 completely different things. And so I just find this to be very much like, I feel like we're going in the right direction. Hearing that people don't like us, that we're unlikable, sorry, my dog just like ran for no reason. I don't know what she's doing, but that we're unlikable, that people don't like to play against us, that we're cheaters and we're doing something different. I just think that they're just realizing that this team is different. And I think that's a good thing for us. See what you guys are saying. Cannon Kane says they wanted him to fail, but he's defiant. Lindsay M says they didn't like us when we were nice, and they like us even less now that we're not little bitches. Well said. Nashville says her job is promoting her media brand. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Giovanni says Arsenal are simply unlikable due to our history and a way of doing things. We've been a banter club for a decade. Yeah, I think so. And yeah, we are good. We're good for media. The narrative around Arsenal has been that they're a banter club, like you guys said, and that has made them money over the years, being able to put up those bad statistics and saying over and over and over again that Arsenal are this dead club. And now they're going to have to change things around. And so I don't think they're really loving that right now. The Onyx Lens says, if they don't like us now, they'll really hate us if we get Champions League. We'll be unbearable. Come on, Arsenal. And I do hear that from rivals, that they feel like we're going to be unbearable. And I'm just like, but you can't banter Arsenal fans for not being in the Champions League for 5 seasons and then expect when we get it to be quiet. That's not how things work. So you can't expect, if you're willing, if you're going to give it, you have to be willing to take it. And I don't think any Arsenal fan feels like Champions League is the end all be all. We all know that we need to go further than that. And Champions League is just the beginning of that puzzle. But we've been bantered for not having it for so long. And I find it very strange that all of a sudden that it looks like Arsenal might get it. Now, Champions League means nothing. And it's just top 4. It's just blah, blah, blah. No, it does mean something, especially in the context in which Arsenal are in right now. We're not the team that was expected to get top 4. This is a young team. And the more that I think about it, I don't think it's an overachievement, because I do think this team has, especially it's the starting 11, has the capability to be a Champions League team and has performed like a Champions League team most times that it's played. But with the inconsistencies of young players, the consistent injuries to key players, the inexperience from the manager, inexperience from the team as a whole. I think when you take all those into consideration, this would be a very big deal for this particular team in this context. And so you can't expect Arsenal fans just to be like, oh, well, who cares? The context matters in this case. Like if it was just, that team that we expected to, the team that Unai Emery had, that had all those senior players in it, had Ozil, had Lacazette, had Aubameyang, had Granit Xhaka, had good players in it, but just couldn't get over the line because they just didn't have the mentality. I don't think we would have celebrated it, or if we had gotten it, we would have celebrated the way we could potentially be celebrating this, because this team is not supposed to get top four, in the eyes of the media, in the eyes of a lot of fans. It's not supposed to. So it's just different. Paul says they hate Arsenal when the club is successful. Hell, do you think Moyes would rest his best 11 for Thursday? Nope, Moyes came out guns blazing, and it's not just Moyes. It's that Bruno Lage, he was mad. Like, Steven Gerrard wasn't very happy. Like, I do think that this, sorry, my dog is like losing her mind, but I do think that the league as a whole has gotten very, very comfortable with the idea that Arsenal is soft, easy to play against, easy 3 points. And now that is changing, it's changing the landscape of the league. And so even if we don't get top four this season, we're going to be a very good team next season. And so they just have to kind of get over it. I mean, Bruno Lage was doing very similar things that Arteta was doing, but for some reason he was like about to die, because if you've ever watched Wolves play, they love dark arts. Their players roll around on the ground, holding their ankles every 5 seconds, and you got done. So we're not doing anything any different than anybody else. Everybody does it. Everybody kicks the ball out and doesn't run after it really quickly to throw it in if we're winning the game. Everybody goes down to the ground and wastes some time on the clock. Everybody celebrates. I mean, I saw earlier on the season Manchester United's team celebrate like they won the league when they won on a last minute penalty against, like, I think West Ham or one of those teams, and they played really badly and still won, and they celebrated big. And that's just what you do. You just celebrate. It's not a big deal. Diallo says, I don't really care what rivals and pundits say. What upsets me is when I see so-called Arsenal fans also piling on in to mock the team and the manager. I just don't get it. Yeah, I don't really get it either. I mean, there are times where Arteta does things and I'm like, damn, that's kind of embarrassing. But at the same time, I respect it, because he cannot ask that team to give 100% if he's not doing so. And it only looks weird right now because he's young and inexperienced and he doesn't have the CV to back it up. But I guarantee if Arteta had some of the same accolades as some of the best managers, nobody would think twice about the things that he's doing. You see managers like Simeone doing the suck it, that thing, so it's because they feel like we don't have the right to be confident that we're going to win games. It's like in one breath, it's, well, you should expect to beat all these teams. But if we get confident and say we're going to win these games, well, how dare you think that you're so good that you're going to win these games? So I think you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But if I had to choose between being a team that other teams don't like and a team that other teams or fans do, I'd rather be the unlikable, because I know from my perspective, if I like a team, it's because I don't fear them at all. I don't care, Let's see. Sean says, some of our own fans have a part to play in not being liked. A lot of them participate in dragging the club, giving rivals the okay to disrespect us. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes both ways, right? Like, we have to be fair. There's toxic negativity, and I think at some points there's toxic positivity. It goes in both ways. And so I do think that there's some fans that put a target on our backs. They're waiting for any moment for us to lose a game, for it to be the biggest thing. If we lose one game, it's the biggest deal. If we draw a game, it's a big deal, because there are some Arsenal fans that just want to keep gassing this team up and putting them up against some of the other best teams and saying we're just the same as them, we're just a little bit far off and da-da-da. And so that puts the target on your back, right? And then you have the toxic negatives, who we won't name them, but we all know who they are, that pile on to placate and play up to rival fans, because they they've been doing that for so many years to try to not get bantered. Like if I just say our team is crap, they won't banter me as much if I just kind of go along with the get along. And so I think it happens on both ends, and it's not good on either side. But I think from the balanced middle, we all know that we're nowhere near where we need to be. But this team, if they get top four, we deserve to celebrate, and they deserve to celebrate because this is the youngest team in the league. They have, I mean, we are going out in games sometimes with Lacazette, who wasn't good for like over a month. He wasn't good. Or somebody like Eddie Nketiah. No offense to Eddie, but he's not necessarily like a world-class striker. Yeah, Bukayo Saka, who's leading the team from the front, he has been our talisman this season. He just has been. And you have a player like Martinelli, who's still trying to get his feet, Emile Smith-Rowe trying to get his feet. Our backups for our most important positions are Sambi Lokonga and Nuno Tavares. Your goalkeeper is Aaron Ramsdale, who's excellent, but also has that naivety about him. He's a little bit like, he's still inexperienced in himself too. And like, he needs to learn how to be a goalkeeper at a really big club, but he still is so, so good. Tomiyasu, either he's there and he's excellent or he's injured. He was injured for 3 months. So when you take all that into account, you can make a balanced opinion about it. And I think most of us would say, not where we need to be, but damn, this would be a big step. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Yo-Yo says, most football discussions are fueled by agendas, unfortunately. Don1 says, I will name him Lee Bummer. So yeah, but you guys know if I come on here and I say, that I have an agenda, it's usually a playful one, and I'll let you guys know. I'll never make an opinion that I know is fueled by agenda and not say it first. And it's usually in jest, but it's so true that like a lot of football opinion is based on agendas and narratives that are spun by the media and social media. And a lot of it is just so very untrue. Like, this team is not unlikable. It's just a young team. And when you're young and you're doing something for the first time and you're feeling good about it, you do celebrate. You do get really excited. And as this team gets older, they won't continue to do that. They won't. When it'll at some point it'll become like, this is what we expect. But in the meantime, this is something that some of them have never done before. And so you just have to let them do that. Frank says he decided being negative was good for his channel, so he's sticking to that. I mean, some people do have that going on as well, and that's their prerogative. I'm not doing that here. Harvey says, I've been feeling disconnected to the team the last 6 years. Not until now I feel a connection. I love these players and the heart that they have for the club. And it's true. I mean, I know I went through a period of really not loving the team very much. Love the club, not the players, because I never really felt like they were Arsenal players. Never really felt like they gave a shit about the club or the fans or anything. And so there was a 5-year period where it just was hard to watch, not because they weren't good, but because I didn't think that they were really Arsenal players. And these guys sometimes are hard to watch as well. I'm not going to lie. I think the West Ham game was very difficult to watch. But at the same time, they gave 110%. And some players came up big when we needed them to and got us over the line. And when your manager is giving 110% on that sideline, he's basically playing the game with you. I mean, how could you hate this group? How could you hate this team? I mean, we love them more than we've loved the last couple of teams that have come through. And they just happen to be very unlikable to the rest of the league and inject it. Arsenal Granny says, I love the way our team celebrates. I do too. Like, what's the point if you're not going to celebrate? And this whole celebrating like we won the league is such bullshit. We haven't. And if they were like, when we played against Man City and at home, and we played really well, and they scored that last minute winner. Did you see the way Rodri celebrated? This is somebody who's, I believe, won the league with Man City. Is a very good player, and celebrated like they won the league away from home at Arsenal, because it was a difficult game where we gave them a real run for their money. And that's just what sport is. You go to your away fans, you take your shirt off, you scream and yell, you jump on top of each other. That's just how football is. It's not different for anybody. I wouldn't expect it to be any different. Let's see. Blaze says, just some pundits and fans reacted the same way to Arsene Wenger back in the day when Arsenal won titles, but we didn't see because social media wasn't popular like today. And that's very true. I think people just don't like change. They've gotten very used to Arsenal being a team that doesn't compete, that doesn't fight for each other, that's always in the mud. And as we start to kind of come out of the mud, and that's not to say that we have top four in the bag, and there isn't a possibility that our rivals could get top four and we end up somewhere in fifth maybe. But this team has made really big strides, and it's not just going to stop because if we don't make Champions League now. And I think that's what people are realizing, is that with a team that's full of 20, 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, that we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So this is something that they're going to have to continue to watch, and they just have to, get over it. Happily Egg says, you're right, Jess. They did give everything on the pitch, but oh boy, Tavares going forward. Okay, Tavares defending gives Gabriel a heart attack. Yeah, it gives all of us heart attacks. I mean, Nuno is insane. Arsenio says, I don't know any fan that wants to see us lose just to be proven right. What kind of nonsensical mentality is that? Unfortunately, I mean, it's not a theory. It's something that's been said on social media, on other channels, and on other YouTube channels, that there are fans that want us to lose every single game so that Arteta will be sacked. That's what they've said. And also so that they'll be proven right. So there you go. But I just wanted to have like a discussion around this, because it's just interesting. Like those tweets, like Arteta has made this Arsenal team the most unlikable team ever, that we're celebrating like we won the league. What do you expect us to do? Just let you win? It doesn't make sense, and if you don't like it, get used to it, because I don't think this team is going anywhere anytime soon, so there you go. Ty Jr. says, I don't know why Lee watches football like he hates it. I don't know. I mean, he has his own thing going on. The Winchester Pubcast. Did you change the name of this? I thought that it was called something else. Says, celebrating is fine. Any club would. Arteta has changed the locker room. Just needs quality in the summer. Anyone who wants Arsenal to fail aren't real fans. There, I said it. 100%. We will leave it there for that part of the show. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And now we'll talk about what you guys actually came here for, which is transfers. But there's about 140 of you guys here, so please make sure you like that video. So yeah, let's talk about our first transfer rumor here. Sharp turn here. Sharp turn. On to Aaron Hickey. Aaron Hickey for 20 million. So this is a young 19-year-old fullback playing at Bologna, a Scottish player. I believe he's Scottish. And he is somebody who's being linked to Arsenal over the last 24 hours or so. I think I was one of the first people to tweet about it. And this seems like a more realistic link than maybe some of the other ones that we've seen, because he fits the mold, I think, for somebody that can fit more than one position, because we all kind of know that we need maybe two fullbacks, but we probably won't be able to get two. So if we get one, they kind of have to be able to fill multiple roles, right? And I don't think the club are quite ready to bring in somebody who will take Tierney's spot. We need a redo on the Tavares transfer. I really think that that's what we need. We need somebody that's more of a fullback, less of a wing back, and that has a little bit more experience and can actually deputize for Kieran Tierney without there being so much drop off. And so I think that that's what makes this feel a little bit more realistic. So this is coming from Scott's Abroad Pod. This is where I got the information from. Says 20 million euros, Hickey to Arsenal. It's emerged in the last hour. This was yesterday, by the way, that Arsenal are keen to get Hickey over the line as their first summer signing. Would be in line with their new youthful side, scout linked to Bologna after Tomiyasu signed, and Tierney injuries plus no settled right back. So that's pretty much the word on that. This is coming from Grimandi Tweets. He was saying that a bit of background on Aaron Hickey: left Celtic Academy at 16 to join Hearts. When Arsenal signed Kieran Tierney, there was talk of Hickey rejoining Celtic, but instead he signed for Bologna. Some sites have him at 1.75 millimeters. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's talking about height or what. You guys know I'm terrible at math. That looks like a completely different language to me. But he's basically like 6 foot, I think. Let's see what else he said. He can defend narrow and wide with speed. He's improved his ability to defend in the box. He now stays on his feet. He delays attackers. As you might expect, his dribbled pass numbers are very good. Last season, it was 0.9 per 90. This season, Hickey's improved to 0.3. Aaron Hickey also uses his right foot more often, and that's because his body orientation is more open to reception. At Hearts, he's mostly used to strike the ball, but he's ambidextrous. He's a player that can play with both feet. And that kind of goes back to what Arteta really wants in his players is to be able to play in different ways and not to be pigeonholed. And one of the downfalls, I don't want to call it downfalls, but something that is kind of a mark against Kieran Tierney is he's very, very left-footed. So you don't have the ability to go inside. You don't have the ability to change your angles to do different things on the ball and off the ball. And so somebody like Aaron Hickey makes sense in that regard, quite similar to Tomiyasu in that way. And so that's kind of like the background on him. Something else I wanted to pull on is, I don't know why my dog is just, she's getting on my nerves. I'm so sorry. She's just, because she's barking and I'm trying to think and it's just like not working. But this comes from LT Arsenal. I guess he pulled the stats that league games missed by Kieran Tierney in the last 3 seasons. In 2019-20, it was 23. That also, if you put some context to it, we bought him injured. So he was always going to miss quite a bit of the season. Last season, he missed 11 league games, and this season he's missed 16. League games missed by Takahiro Tomiyasu in the last 3 seasons. This is obviously he was at another club, but in 2019, 2029, in 2020, 2021, he missed 7. And in 2021, 2022, 13. So we need fullback cover like we need air. Okay. And so this is somebody who can fit in on both sides. And it's not like Cedric, where Cedric can play on both sides, but he's still really, really right-footed. This guy can play with both feet. And so that really makes him somebody that would be like a Swiss Army knife type of person. He's 19, so it wouldn't be like somebody that's coming in that would want 100 million or 100,000 grand per week. Because I think that's something that we probably want to try to avoid. I saw some links to Zinchenko, and I just thought, him and Tierney are just too similar. And even though I like that idea of having somebody that really could push Kieran Tierney, ultimately we gave Kieran Tierney a big contract. And so the guy behind him, I think, kind of will need to be somewhat of a backup, but it would be nice if they could fill in on both sides, because if Tomiyasu gets injured, it cannot be Cedric. And Chris Wheatley also tweeted this morning around the Aaron Hickey news, but he also said that Cedric is so settled in London that he won't leave. That doesn't mean that we don't need to upgrade on that backup right back, because he's just not good enough. So I wanted to ask you guys, is this a perfect signing for Arsenal's fullback woes? 20 million euros, ambidextrous, 19 years old, quite a bit of experience. Looks like he's good going forward. I think he has 6 goals this season, 5 or 6 goals this season. Good going forward, good defending, an actual fullback, not a wing back. What I really like about him is that instead of staying in Scotland, he left and went to Italy. I don't know if that doesn't sound like something that happens very often, He could have stayed and went to Celtic, but he chose to do something different. And so I like that about him. But equally, he's used to being in a cold environment. So he's not somebody that's like Italian that would come to the Premier League and have a hard time adapting. But is this a perfect kind of fullback signing for Arsenal? What do you guys think? Pull up his FB ref. I will. I'll do that right now. What do you guys think? Get in the chat box and let me know what you guys think. Giovanni says the Scottish Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Let's see. Young says all of these transfer rumors are premature. Season ain't over yet. Wait till the summer and there will be more outs than ins. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. We're just having fun. You guys know how I feel about transfer rumors. It's fun to talk about it. Seawalder says, I wonder what AMM will be saying when he gets back, whether he's accepted what he is yet, because I'd keep him if he was. The last thing I saw about him is that Chris Wheatley put out a report months ago saying that Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Bellerin would leave on a permanent no matter what next season. And I know that there was the report that came out around Bellerin and Arteta wants to keep Bellerin. I think that's just him kind of doing a little bit of a pep, saying he wants to keep him to force Betis's hand to go ahead and put in a permanent offer. I don't know what's going on with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Personally, I would want to move him on. I wouldn't use him. I think at this point, the ship has sailed for me with Ainsley. Rancid says I would sign him. So I'm going to pull up his FB ref really quick. But I would move on from Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I don't know him, so this is just me projecting, but he just doesn't seem like somebody that's particularly interested in being at Arsenal. He wants to play in a position that's not really he's not really suited for. He's 25 years old. He's, I think we can do better now. And that's just no offense to him, So it's no offense to him at all, but I just think we need to move in a different direction now. Been there, done that, share screen, Chrome tab. All right, so not like a million green bars, but let's look at it anyway. So what I like to look at first usually is who he's similar to. And I don't know very many of these names, but I do know Rico Henry. So, and he's pretty good. Max Aarons. So not a lot of like comps that we can that I think not a lot of comps that would like give us some comfort there, but I like to look at that just so I can get like a base of what I'm kind of looking at. But he's very high up on non-penalty goals, and that's because he has a lot of goals for a fullback. It says here that he has 5 goals and 1 assist. That's a lot for a fullback right now. But pass completion is quite high at 81%, 77th percentile amongst fullbacks. He doesn't have a lot of progressive passes or that many progressive carries. He only has 4 per 90. But I mean, it is what it is, right? It just depends on how you're being asked to play. Dribbles completed a little bit higher there, 0.92 per 90 in the 67th percentile. And then progressive passes, he has maybe like 2.5 per match. The thing about defenders that's hard to gauge is whether or not he's a good defender, because a lot of people will look at tackles and say, oh, he's in the 22nd percentile. That means that he's bad. But most really good defenders don't tackle a lot. When you tackle a lot, that means that you've probably been beaten and you need to run back and recover. So I don't really look at tackles as something as like a good metric. His pressures aren't very high either, but he's also not playing in a like amazing team. Interceptions, not very high. Blocks are pretty high at two per game. So it's a difficult one. You look at his FB ref and it's not anything outstanding. But again, he's a defender. So if you're looking at these defensive metrics and you're like, oh my God, the aerial duels are not high, the tackles are not high. A lot of really good defenders don't have those types of metrics anyway. Let's look at Ben White really quick. Because I know I looked at his FB ref one time and I thought, oh my God, it's awful. So So yeah, even like you look at somebody like Ben White, who we consider a pretty good defender for us, his interceptions are not very high. His blocks are not very high. His aerial duels won are not very high. So it's hard to look at a defender really and be able to decipher whether or not they're good. I think you have to look at his use eye test more with the fullbacks. Let's look at Tomiyasu. So like Tommy's aerial duels are really high, his clearances, but we know that Tomiyasu on that right-hand side is being tasked with a lot of defensive work. So yeah, passes attempted. We know that he's big in our buildup as well. So his numbers look a lot more promising for him, but equally in that Bologna team, I just don't think they're very good. And so I would just go with my eye test on this one with Hickey, because no fullbacks numbers look like amazing. Like this is Kieran Tierney's. Like it looks, I mean, if you looked at this, you'd be like, oh my God, Kieran Tierney is horrendous. So yeah, we just have to kind of do that. But yeah, perfect signing for fullback woes. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah, Billy says compare him to Kieran Tierney. Even Kieran Tierney's numbers didn't look very good. C. Walder says, is there a composure stat? I don't know. I don't think they have a composure stat on there. But I will check. Yo-Yo asked, does he bomb forward or tuck in? When I was watching him play against Inter yesterday, because I was like, okay, well, let me turn on a game and see if I can see what he's doing. It was hard to really see because he did do some forward running, more on the outside. They did play in a back three as well, so you have to keep that in mind. But he was more bombing forward to me than tucking in. But I need to watch more than one game. But he seems like somebody that can go inside or outside because he can use both feet. But he tends to want to cut, like he can use his left, like he's right-footed, but can also use his left, but tends to kick with his right. So what you'll see is does a little bit of a Cancelo on that left-hand side. So he can ping those passes where he shifts it onto his right and kind of does an in-swinger instead of an out-swinger with his left. So he's an interesting player because I've never really seen a player like that. Except for Cancelo playing on the left-hand side for Man City, being right-footed, but he tends to bomb more forward, in my opinion. That's what I saw, but it was only one game, and it's hard to make a decision. Like, it's hard to make a definitive, like, this is the type of player that he is off of one game. Let's see. So, yeah. Billy says, nah, clubs are already making moves at this stage. They are already talking to agents, intermediaries, and the news probably coming from his agent. Yeah, I mean, whether we get these deals done quick, I don't know. That's a big one for me, is like how quickly we can get it done, because we want to have players in before the beginning of the season. We don't want that craziness we had last season. There's no international football this season or this summer. So hopefully we can get in players quickly, but we are doing work behind the scenes. I just don't know how quickly things will happen. FA says he is ambidextrous, can play both sides, young, solid defensively with good passing, a useful backup signing with potential to be maybe a starter. And I think that's where the conversation becomes more interesting, because what happens to Nuno? If you were to bring in somebody like Aaron Hickey, what happens to Nuno? Would you guys loan him? Do you guys see a loan for him? Because if this guy comes in, I feel like that is kind of like maybe the club admitting that the Nuno move hasn't worked out. That doesn't mean that Nuno can't become a lot better, but I have this strange feeling that Nuno was not the type of player that Arteta was looking for, because he's nothing like Kieran Tierney, and he doesn't offer something different where we can take advantage of it because of the way that we play. If we played with three at the back, we could use him a lot. Like his strengths would become more useful to us, but because we need a fullback, we can't really use his bombing forward, because defensively he's such a liability. And I hate to say that about Nuno. I like him. I think there is a player there, but for a team that plays in a back three and he can be more of a winger, and not, because Arteta really values defensive solidity. And I don't think we really get that from Nuno. Now, it's better when you have Tomiyasu on that other side. But again, he exposes Gabriel so much. And also, Granit Xhaka has to do a lot more defending on that side as well when Nuno is there. So for me, if Aaron Hickey were to come in, I would say just loan Nuno out because I don't see where he'd be getting a lot of playing time. Because bringing in somebody like this is definitely the club admitting that they needed something different. And so I don't really see where Nuno would fit in there. But what do you guys think happens to Nuno if we bring in this guy? BX says Nuno needs to gain more experience. Let's see. Amira says, question, Nuno's apparently seen as a defender because of his physical attributes, but he's clearly better going forward. So why not just coach him as a winger and use those attributes to his advantage as well? You know, Amira, like the thing about Nuno is that he's when you're a young player, because Nuno's 21, and this happens a lot to like forwards that end up being fullbacks, is because you weren't good enough to be a winger. And because you are fast and you have recovery speed, they drop you back to fullback. That's what they did with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He was a winger, and because he didn't develop enough as a winger, and he wasn't good enough in that position, they dropped him back to the back and said, well, you have the recovery speed and the athleticism to be a good fullback. Now, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a much better defender than Nuno, but it's basically the same premise. So he's an in-betweener where I think he really would flourish in a team that plays in a back three because he's an in-betweener, but he's not good enough to be a winger. In my opinion, his technical quality is not good enough. And I know that you can say, well, just kick it over the top to him, let him go in space. But I don't see him as an out-and-out winger. I don't think I'd prefer us to just buy a winger that's actually really good than try to convert him. But he's an in-betweener. Not quite good enough to be a fullback, not quite good enough to be a winger. That's why he's playing in defense. And so I don't really see us using him in that way. I do think Nuno is going to end up being somebody that goes out on a loan or something like that. Let's see. The Winchester Pubcast says Nuno sadly will need a loan. He is good in some areas, but defensively he's extremely bad. He could be good at left wing back, but even in West Ham, Bowen has closed that goal and Ramsdale tackle came in. Like Nuno didn't have enough experience when he came into Arsenal. I think he had 20-something appearances in the first team at Benfica before he came to us, but only 9 of them were starts. So, an appearance could be 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 7 minutes, So he just didn't have enough experience to be deputizing for Kieran Tierney, somebody who gets injured a lot. And so if you don't have a really good team that can really just kind of bolster him so that you don't have to feel his inconsistencies and some of his faults, then he ends up being a really big liability. And I really think Gabriel needs a strong fullback next to him. And he's not getting that. And so now we're looking at Gabriel, is he any good? Gabriel is very good, but he's being exposed by Nuno. And that's just because Nuno doesn't have enough experience. And I'm not sure that I don't think Arteta's priority is going to be how can we use Nuno. I think his priority will be how can we fix this because this hasn't worked out. Yo-Yo says we're missing a trick with Nuno. His value will catapult and he could be flipped for a good profit. But how do we get that from him? I mean, how do you get that from him without playing him? Because when Kieran Tierney comes back, he'll come in and start. So I don't know where Nuno gets all this time to double and triple his value, especially if he's looking like somewhat of a calamity. The narrative around him is not great. It's not that he's this great young player with all this promise. It's very they described him as exciting but erratic, which was a nice way of saying we don't know what this player is. So the idea that we're going to have this playing time to allow him to become something, like you said, somebody that we can flip and profit off of. I think that the only way you'll get that is if he goes out on a loan and goes and plays for a team that plays a style that really suits him, because also we're a possession-based team. We want to control games. And I think he would benefit for playing on a counter-attacking side, maybe like Crystal Palace or something like that. C. Walder says, really dodgy defensive positioning, probably a hard trait to coach into someone. Billy says, Nuno should go on loan to a mid-table club in the Premier League. He's definitely a wing back. Yo-Yo says, Tierney will once again miss the business end of the season. I suspect Nuno or Hickey to prove vital the way AMN did for Arteta. Fair enough. Let's see. Amira says, if we do loan him out, where do you see him going? Serie A, maybe. I feel like a Premier League team might take him. I don't know. Maybe back to Portugal. No, maybe not back to Portugal. Where do I see him going? I don't know. That's such a difficult question. I think he has to go somewhere where teams are quite open and they play high lines so that they can really use him. So maybe the Bundesliga, maybe Serie A. I think he would be good in those leagues. Blaze says, Jess, do you think Nuno lacks confidence? Because games against Aston Villa and Leicester and Newcastle, he played really good. I don't know. I think that it is a little bit of lacking confidence, and I don't think he ever truly recovered from Liverpool. I think that was a very big moment for him in Lakanga, and they really didn't do that great. Expectedly, like they didn't do very good, because Liverpool are a completely different animal than anything they had faced before. So I think he is suffering from a lack of confidence and feeling like maybe the job is a little bit too big, right now for him. I don't know if he expected to get this much playing time. I know Sambi said he didn't expect to get this much playing time. So it's a lot of pressure. He probably doesn't have a lot of confidence. And so I think when he originally started playing, he could just kind of relax and just go into games and just do his thing, especially because Tomiyasu was on the other side. But, the difficult game came about, and then the team started to shift a little bit more. And now he's playing in a not so secure Arsenal side. No Thomas Partey. Tomiyasu is just now coming back in. And so it's difficult, and the context just changed. Everything has changed. Now we're not at the beginning of the season where it's just win and play well and all this kind of stuff. We need wins. And so I do think he's suffering from a lack of confidence, and the fact that this is just a lot of pressure for somebody that's never been in a situation like this before. Yep, Yo-Yo says it very well here. Nuno is currently being relied upon at a critical stage of the season, as AMN was before. Tierney needs a replacement, not a backup. Well, do you guys think that, somebody like Aaron Hickey could be somebody that could step in and really deputize for Kieran Tierney? I don't think they're going to replace him, you guys. I just don't see it. We just gave him a new contract, and a big contract at that, and he's basically the captain. I don't think we're in a replace Kieran Tierney and get rid of him stage. I do see, if we had done the Nuno thing right and brought in somebody that was actually a fullback with more experience, that was young, somebody like Aaron Hickey, I don't think we would be freaking out about it and being like, we need to get rid of Kieran Tierney. It's because Nuno hasn't worked out quite right, so we know he's not the answer. I think if we had done the Nuno transfer right, we wouldn't be feeling this as much. Tony says, Nuno's weaknesses are all teachable. All his strengths are not. Fair enough. I mean, there's something there. I don't know what it is. You guys can tell me what it is. I don't know what it is. There's something there. Diallo says, Jess, don't forget we have an academy prospect coming through in Brook Norton Cuffy. We don't need to load up in that position. Well, we don't need to, but what I will say is that Brook Norton Cuffy is playing in League One. He's done excellently. He has completed League One. He needs to go to a championship team or even maybe a Premier League team in this next loan that he should be getting. So in the meantime, we can't just be sitting around with Cedric. I do think that we worry a lot about blocking paths and all this kind of stuff. If they're good enough, they'll play. If they're good enough, we'll make a spot for them. So, having somebody like this, like Aaron Hickey, that can play on both sides. Cedric will eventually go. Tomiyasu may become a center back, and then all of a sudden you do have room. So I wouldn't worry too much about Brook Norton-Cuffy. He'll have a spot. If he's good enough, they'll make a spot for him. Let's see. Peter says Nuno's not good enough for Arsenal. Simple. Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I think that there's something there. I just don't know if we could utilize it at Arsenal. Billy says, what do you think we should do with Brook Norton-Cuffy? I think he looks ready for the Premier League. He needs another loan. I would say, like, I know we get excited about our academy prospects when they do get on loan. We're like, okay, we want to see him in our team. Because he was playing in League One, I would like to see him play in the Premier League or in the Championship next season and then see if he completes it. I think one thing that Chelsea does really well that I don't think we do as well is we don't allow our players to cook. We want to drag them off of loan really quickly, or they go out on loan and they don't do well and then we don't send them back out. Aziz needs to go back on loan. His first loan was somewhat of a failure, so he needs to go back and try again. And Brook Norton-Cuffy, like, and Balogun too, this is their first loan. They need to go on a second and even maybe a third. We don't need to rush them back into the team. No reason to do that. I think just get them in Premier League loans and see what they do from there. That's what I would do. But Brook Norton-Cuffy is going to be just fine. He just signed a new contract. He's not going anywhere. I would just leave him out on loan. So yeah, Aaron Hickey, I think he'd be a good signing. So we'll see what happens with that. There's about 150 if you guys here like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about Eddie Nketiah until 2026. So Arteta wants to try one more time to get Nketiah to sign a new deal. So here's the thing is that I see a lot of people saying give him a new contract. There's been a contract there for him to sign. He hasn't signed it. He hasn't wanted to. So that's the wrinkle in the situation, you guys. It's not that we haven't offered him one. It's that there's one there and he doesn't want to sign it because he wants to play and be a starter. And he's 22 years old. He's aged out of the England national team. I don't know if he's going to play for Ghana or not. Maybe he is. But he needs to move forward with his career. And I have not changed my mind at all on Eddie Nketiah, even over these last couple of games. I don't feel like I'm seeing anything different than what he's just played better than what we've seen before. But this is about the level that I thought Eddie was at. Not quite what we need, but maybe he's 22 years old. So he could become anything at this point. He could be a championship striker or he could end up being a top striker. It could go either way. But I think for where we are right now, I think we need to buy 2 strikers that are ready to go. I don't think we need somebody like Nketiah because although he's played really well, I do think we get carried away sometimes. He's played well because he's injected some energy into the side where Lacazette was really lacking. He also shoots where Lacazette is lacking, but he scored 2 goals. 2 of them came against Chelsea, but against Man United, he didn't score. And against West Ham, he didn't score. He did have a lot of shots on target, but we have these players already. We have a Martinelli already who's still trying to find his shooting boots. We have players like this already. And so if he's not a nailed on striker right now where we know we're going to get 10 goals from him next season, which I don't think what we've seen from him over the last 3 games suggests that, or the last 4 games suggest that, then I don't really understand why we give him a very useful position as a backup striker when we need goals badly. So for me, Eddie Nketiah for until 2026, giving him this new deal, trying to get him to sign it. I haven't changed my mind. But equally, I haven't changed my mind on El Neni. I haven't changed my mind on any of the players. I think we need to upgrade. I think when a player plays well, we decide they need to stay, but we forget what came before that and the reality of the players that they may be playing well now, but they're not going to take us to the next level. I feel very similarly about Nketiah. It's very similarly the way I feel about El Neni, that we need to move on from these players and bring in more quality. But that doesn't take away from what Eddie has done over the last couple of games. He has played well. He has made a good account of himself. I'm sure there'll be a lot of teams wanting to sign him on a free, but equally for his own like career, what does he gain from sitting on Arsenal's bench? Because if we get him to sign a new deal, we're going to go big on a striker, and that person is going to play most games. And I'm still not convinced that if that guy goes down, that the next guy up we want there is we're going to want is Eddie, if that makes sense. So for you guys, has Eddie done enough? Has Eddie done enough for you where, of course, the contract is already there, but that you would want him to sign it, that you would want him to be a backup? Has he done enough for you? Not for Arteta, but for you personally. Ray says Elneny is more useful to the squad than Xhaka. I just think we need to move on from some of these players. I think we get excited about one or two really good performances or decent performances, if that. And then we decide we want to hook them on for four more years. It's just not enough for me. CC says, spot on, Jess. I think Arsenal need to push on from a lot of these players. Upgrade is needed if Arsenal want to push on, get to a higher level. The league is so competitive. Think Newcastle. Yeah, I think Newcastle. Spurs will go again. Man United are definitely going to go again. So I just don't really, if we don't think we're going to get 10 goals minimum from Eddie Nketiah, then I don't know why we'd be desperate to keep him. But that's just me. Blaze says, Jess, do you think it's weird that Arteta rates Nketiah over Pepe? If Nketiah will stay, what Arsenal will do with Balogun in the future? I don't know. Like, the whole thing about Pepe is I think that's a very unique situation where Pepe is a very talented player, and the way that we play and sometimes the way that Pepe plays doesn't allow for us to see all of his talent. So I don't think Arteta's saying Nketiah is a better or more talented player than Pepe. I just think for what we need right now, and Pepe also is a winger. I know that there's some people in the Arsenal fan base that are like, just play him as striker. I don't think so. I think he's a winger, and as long as Saka is at least 50% fit, Arteta only feels comfortable using Saka there. And so, yeah, I don't think he's saying Eddie is more talented than Pepe, but we know that like talent is not always, if you can't see it and it's not coming out, it's basically not like not having it. And I don't think that when Pepe comes out there, we necessarily see it. And so Eddie is probably more useful to us right now, especially because he plays striker. But I don't necessarily think it's weird. I think it's just the situation that we're in right now. Arsenio says, Eddie ain't done shit. Let him go. Let's see. Harvey says, who with a lot of quality wants to sit on Arsenal's bench? Nene is perfect squad player, in my opinion. I like competition for places. I want players to be pushed. Thomas Partey is not going to feel pushed at all by Mohamed El Neni. So I prefer competition for places than clear backups and clear starters with nice guys on the bench that are okay with just collecting the check. That's just how I feel. I think the best teams have competition for places, not this clear like delineation between the two. But that's just me. I would move on from El Neni and Eddie. I just would. That's it. Amin says 2 world-class strikers and so Eddie, he doesn't want to be a backup striker. And that's another thing is he doesn't want to be a backup striker. And again, if let's say we buy Osimhen, because if you keep Eddie, the idea has to be that we're keeping him because we're going to go all out on a big striker. If that person gets injured, do you want Eddie coming on? Is Eddie going to give you the goals that you need? I don't think so. Amira says, I wouldn't mind keeping Eddie if he was our third choice, but for his career, he should go. He's clearly improved from preseason, especially now that he's got a run of games, but how long will that run last? We know that these runs are also, they come and they go. Lacazette had a good run where people were saying that he should stay. We should give him a new contract. And now that's kind of died down because that run has ended. So again, I think we get really caught up on a couple of good games and decide, yeah, this guy is the one for us. And it's just too risky. Best Gaming Laptop says Eddie has done enough for me. I see Eddie's ceiling is very high. He may not turn out like Harry Kane, who we let go from our academy and is now world class. He may turn out like Harry Kane. Those are big words there. Big words there. Yo-Yo says Arteta wants him at the club, so I wouldn't mind as a gooner, but as a football fan, I'd prefer to see Eddie elsewhere. Ray Ray says Eddie is easily good enough to be a part of the squad, and we need a much bigger squad. Fair enough. Hold on real quick, you guys. Yeah, fair enough. I think this is where it almost feels like there's no way that he'll stay, because he would have to be a third choice. He would. Because he can't be the next guy up. He's still a developing striker. And the last thing we want is for our main guy to get injured and Eddie to be the next guy up. So he would have to be the third choice striker. And I don't think he wants to be. So I just don't see how he stays. But that's just me. So yeah, I was going to ask this question, but I think we kind of already answered it. If Eddie signs, do we buy only one striker? I do think that that's the case. If he were to stay, we could go big on one guy. But again, do you really want Eddie to be your number two? I don't. Stevie says, ideally, the end goal is what you described, Jess, but we have to learn to walk before we run. Yasaf says, Gabriel is the general of the Arsenal team. Give him the armband. Oh, yeah. Gabriel, I think if I don't know if I'd want him to be captain, but he's definitely one of our leaders. Yo-Yo says, Arteta has trusted Eddie as a number 9 over Laka, Martinelli, and Balogun. As a football fan, foremost, I look forward to seeing him post Arsenal. Fair enough. So yeah, Eddie, mixed reviews. Some of you guys feel like he's done enough. Some of you guys don't think so. So we'll see what happens with that. But I don't see him at Arsenal next season. I think he'll move on. Remember him? Pablo Marie. Pablo Marie to Udinese seems like is something that's definitely going to take place. And I don't know if any of us are going to be necessarily like, would anybody be heartbroken if Pablo Marie left? Let me know, because he's somebody that I always forget is even on our team until they mention it. But this report came out maybe a week ago that Arsenal are interested in Molina, which is the Udinese right back, and are willing to offer Pablo Marie as a part swap deal. But now it's this is coming from Tutto Udinese, says Udinese are ready to raise their offer for on loan defender Pablo Marie, which had been 4 million euro, but Arsenal raised his valuation after good performances. There's still no confidence. There's still confidence on a deal with room for an agreement while both clubs continue to negotiate. So I think this would be a good move for him. Obviously, I think it's fair enough to say, unless somebody else thinks differently, you guys can let me know in the chat box, but he's not good enough for Arsenal. When last season, when people were saying that he was better than Gabriel, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So he's not. He is probably worth about that 4 to 5 million euros, in my opinion. I don't think he's very good. He's not good enough for us. And so this feels like the right thing to do. If anybody thinks he should come back, let me know. But this is another one of those, I think, Kia signings that didn't really go very well. But I'm glad that we went ahead and got him out on loan so that we could move him on, because he's just not somebody I would feel comfortable deputizing for Gabriel. I didn't feel that way last season. I definitely don't feel it so now. He seems to be doing well at Udinese. I saw that he scored a goal. Good for him. Let's move him on. Let's move him on. Tony says, why are we talking about Pablo Marie? He's gone. Callum said, oh, I forgot about him. Amin says, hell no, didn't know he existed. Young Wizard says, this guy got destroyed by Lukaku. The rest is history. Ray says, no one will be heartbroken. Let's move on. I mean, the thing about it is that he has one of the best Arsenal, I think, memes of him where Arteta's talking to him on the sideline and he has that face like, what? So, well, thank you for that, Pablo. But you definitely weren't good enough. But who is the backup left-sided center back next season if Pablo Mari does go? Because right now we just have Rob Holding, and that's pretty much it. And I wonder if Arteta would be open to kind of loosening up on the left-sided center back has to be left-footed thing. Because if that's the case, then Saliba makes a lot of sense to come back in and kind of fill in for both positions, on the left for Gabriel and on the right for Ben White. But if Arteta is very like hell-bent on sticking with left footers on the left side, then I think we'll have to change some things up. Equally, I don't want to spend any time this summer on goalkeepers or center backs. The last couple of transfer windows for Arteta have been center back and goalkeeper, goalkeeper and center back, and I'm bored now. So hopefully we have an internal solution that would allow us to not have to go out in the market. But if Pablo Mari does leave and Arteta is like, oh, left footers need to be on the left side, I do think maybe Kieran Tierney could play there in some games as a left-sided center back, and then you could play somebody like Hickey next to him. Or he'll just have to get over it and play Saliba on the left, or play Tomiyasu over there as well, because I think that's where Tomiyasu plays for Japan. I think he plays left-sided center back for Japan. So I feel like this is something where we need to find an internal solution. I don't want to see us go after another center back this summer. But what do you guys think about this situation? Do you think Tierney is a potential person for this role? Tomiyasu, Saliba? Do you think Arteta will continue to be rigid, or do you think when he has a bunch of players that he really trusts, he'll put somebody like a Tomiyasu on the left of the center backs? Rancid says Gabriel, White, Saliba, and Holding. I think we're solid in that position. Fair enough. Lewis says, I want Nuno to go out on loan and promote our youth team, left back Lino Sousa. Ty Jr. says, Gabriel looks like a young Steve Harvey. Wow. Let's see. BX Gunner says, get Koulibaly. I doubt that. I highly doubt that. Diallo says, Pablo Mari is not suited for the EPL. Simple. Very simple. He just was not. I don't want to hear it. There's so many people saying, like, I was being harsh. I wasn't. From the first moment that I seen him, I think he played against West Ham right before we went into lockdown. I think he got bodied by Antonio a couple of times, and I was like, nah, no. Mike says Holding is fine. Winchester Pub Podcast says Saliba will likely be the backup left-sided center back. Yeah, because Ben White's going to play most games. So if Saliba's going to get any playing time, it will have to maybe be on the left. I just wonder if Arteta is open to giving up this whole the left-sided person has to be left-footed. Hold on, you guys. My computer's like gone crazy for some reason. I guess we'll just have to continue to go on like this. All right. Let's see. Giovanni says, my dog Rob. Yo-Yo says, Saliba can play left and right. He can, but will Arteta allow him to, because he won't have that left footer on that left side. Tony says, White, Gabriel, Saliba, and Holding sounds good to me. Lewis Christie says, bring Saliba back for CB depth. So everybody's pretty much in agreement there that we'll find an internal solution. We don't need to go out and get anybody. I don't think anybody has the stomach this summer to be talking about center backs, do we? I mean, we have to move on from the center back conversation. Hold on, you guys. My computer just like hates me right now for some reason. And it's gone all big. And I don't know why. You guys keep talking. I'm going to try to fix this. It won't. Oh my gosh. Hold Yeah, it won't fix. So I'm just gonna have to continue to do it like this. Damn it. Yo-Yo says, just press Control Alt Delete and end processes. I mean, it's like gone all big, and there. Oh my gosh, it had went all big, you guys. I don't know how to describe it. It's the only way I can describe it is it went all big. So yeah, but yeah, we're all in agreement for that, so we can just be over the Pablo Marie thing. But I was like, did they even remember he existed? Last but not least, our last little transfer rumor before we get out of here is Lautaro Martinez. This has popped up again. Lautaro Martinez is like, we've reignited our interest in him. Let me find the little tweet. This is coming from Ekrem Connor, and this also came from Gary Jacob of the Times, Times Sport. Arsenal have rekindled their interest in Lautaro Martinez. Inter Milan are willing to accept a fee in the region of 60 million to 70 million pounds this summer. Tottenham are also interested. Martinez wants to join a club in the Champions League. And then they also said that the short list is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Gabriel Jesus, Lautaro Martinez, and Victor Osimhen. And so I don't know. I don't know why I feel like this guy is just not coming to Arsenal. I don't feel like any of our links to him have ever felt super real. I don't doubt that we have some interest in him, but why get Lautaro Martinez if you can get Gabriel Jesus? And the reason why I'm saying that is because you can't have Gabriel Jesus and Lautaro Martinez. That doesn't make sense. They're both very similar in profile. They can play out wide, but they can also play central. Lautaro Martinez also kind of likes to play with another striker. Gabriel Jesus can kind of play on his own. Lautaro Martinez has never played in the Premier League. Gabriel Jesus is Premier League experienced and proven. And I just don't, I think Gabriel Jesus has more athleticism and physicality to him, where Lautaro Martinez is, he can do it, but I don't think up to the same standards. So this link always just is like, he's going to be so expensive and he's not particularly fast, where Gabriel Jesus is. And so if I'm going to go for that type of profile, more of like a false nine type, I'm going to go after somebody who can run in behind, who can also has a little bit about them, is quick, can do all the false 90 stuff and score goals, where I don't think Lautaro Martinez is really like that, even though he's a really, really good striker. So this one strikes me as very odd. Every time it pops up, I'm like, I don't really see it. And I do think what Arsenal will do is try to get a Lautaro type or a Gabriel Jesus type plus a more traditional complete number 9. That is the type of balance that we need. So I don't really see a Lautaro Martinez plus Gabriel Jesus. But if you could get Gabriel Jesus for 40 million tops, I would go for that instead of Lautaro Martinez. I just don't see that being the best use of funds, especially if you wanted to spend, the 70 million pounds or whatever on a Osimhen, which still probably won't get it done, but I'd rather spend a big chunk of money on a complete 9 than a false 9, where we could get that with Gabriel Jesus. But what do you guys think about Lautaro Martinez? Again, there's a community poll going on right now. You guys can vote. Who do you want leading the line for Arsenal? Let me go ahead and check and see what you guys are saying on that. 55% said Gabriel Jesus, 33% said Victor Osimhen, and only 12% said Lautaro Martinez. So I think a lot of you guys are feeling very similarly, that you're not really feeling Lautaro Martinez. But what do you guys think? The Winchester Pub podcast says Lautaro Martinez in the middle doesn't work well, turns off. He works in 2 strikers. Plus, we are not aiming for a 4-3-3 formation. I think Jesus is far cheaper and a better option, and he is better. And he better in, I think he is better in Tottenham. Atagua says Lautaro is not tall enough. Ray says, I would rather get 1 9 and 2 6s. Let's see. Seawalder says, if Jesus doesn't sign I'll be in ruin. I haven't wanted a signing like this in ages. You guys know how I feel about him. I think he's the perfect signing for us. And then you can go ahead and get a more complete 9. I just fear that like something tells me that we only have money for one big striker signing or 2 smallisher type striker signings. So like if we were to get Gabriel Jesus, it would be Gabriel Jesus plus a Dominic Calvert-Lewin or just Osimhen, so that worries me a little bit, but I would get Gabriel Jesus no matter what. I just think he's the right signing. Diallo says, Jess, I'm not going to lie. When I see Eddie doing basic things and looking so effective, I can't imagine what we could do with a better option like Jesus. We need that man. Exactly. Like he can do very similar things to what Eddie's doing, but at a elite level, like that Eddie just hasn't gotten to yet. And he can still eventually he can get better as well and play in multiple positions. I just think that's a smart signing. And we need to be smart here. Ataguagua says Osimhen would be the best for us. I just don't know if we could get Gabriel Jesus and Osimhen. If we just got one striker, I think we could afford it, no problem. But the 2, I just think that might be a little bit too much. Saint says, all we need is more goal scorers, whether they play left, right, or center. They just got to be able to be aggressive, dribble, create, and score. Is that Lautaro Martinez to you? Alphonse says, Jesus is a hard worker and EPL experienced. I love that, like, it's just kind of changed now, like, because when I first was like, Gabriel Jesus, people were like, no, he's terrible. And now people are like, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, huh? Like, he is pretty good, huh? C. Walter says, my second forward shout is Gakpo. I still really like Gakpo. I still would take him at Arsenal. I know people were a little bit disappointed in his showing against Leicester, but I don't like to make like, oh, I watched one game from a player and that means that they're shit. Gakpo was always going to be more of like a project type player. He's coming from the Dutch league, so you have to take that into consideration. The Dutch league is not very good. That being said, he has the tools to, if he can apply that to the Premier League, he could be something really special. So I would still take Gakpo. Amira says, question, earlier in the season, we said we needed someone who was both Laka and Abba combined. Who's the closest to that for you? And what would be the other strikers playing? Style be? So at the beginning of the season, we said we needed a Laka and Abba combined. I think Lacazette, Aubameyang combined is so hard because there's not a lot of strikers that can link play at a competent level and also running behind with speed and be kind of like that poetry kind of guy. So I would say probably Osimhen is probably the closest. Osimhen is the closest. Osimhen is the closest you could probably get. But that being said, you're not going to be expecting drop in and really you're not going to expect that drop in and be able to, the skills and that kind of stuff. But even Lacazette doesn't do that amazingly. So I think the updated to that is not really lock up as Abba, but it's somebody that can link play with us at a competent level, but also be a threat in behind. I honestly think that is probably like a Tammy Abraham. To be honest, I think that his link up play is better than Osimhen's, but he can also run it behind, but he's not as devastating as a striker as Osimhen is. But it's hard. Like, it's hard to find the two. It's hard to find the two smushed together. That's why I'm a big advocate of Gabriel Jesus, because I also think we have this idea that we need to have somebody that's more of a target. I do think we need players that are willing to get into the air and get into the area and shake things up, but that doesn't mean that they have to be tall. That doesn't mean that they have to be like Giroud. Gabriel Jesus scores a lot of goals with his head. So does Salah, Mane, Jota, all these players. They just want it more than the other players. Their runs are perfect and the delivery is better. So I think we need somebody that is kind of like an all-around type of guy that can do most things. And I think that can be like Gabriel Jesus. And then I also just think we need another attacker, period. Whether that's a complete 9 like Osimhen or somebody like a Cody Gakpo that can play all the way across, but primarily on the left. I'm okay with all of that. I kind of agree with, I forget who said it, St. Vincent. all we need is more goal scorers. I don't think we need to overthink it. We need players that can just create something from any part of the pitch. And right now we just don't have enough of that. So I'm kind of okay with anything. The striker position is not really one that I'm particularly like, I have very strong opinions on, because I feel like as long as we have goal scorers, we'll score more goals. But I'm more concerned about midfield. I think that's, you guys know me, I'm more concerned about that. But Victor Osimhen is more of a complete goal scorer, like a pure goal scorer, but he can do a little bit of the link-up play. So I would really like him. But Gabriel Jesus is like an all-around type of guy, can give you kind of everything. So those two would be good, but can we afford it? I'm not sure. So there you go. We just need better players. You know what I'm saying? Just better players, just better. Lewis says, I don't like the idea of funding our rivals' bid for Haaland, to be honest. I guess if you mean like Man City is our rivals, I guess I understand that. But at the same time, we're never getting Haaland. Like, we're just not going to be in the market for him right now. So I would just, for me, I'm okay with the club looking at opportunities to take players off of really good teams, because we're not quite at the level to actually be competing with them to get Haaland. And quite frankly, like, they don't need Gabriel Jesus money to get Haaland. The only reason why they'd be getting rid of Gabriel Jesus is because he wants to leave, because he wants playing time. They could actually afford to keep him, bring in Julian Alvarez, and bring in Haaland. So I don't think we're really funding them, to be honest. But hey, I get what you're saying. St. Vincent says Liverpool's forwards are the prototype of what we need. Jesus is a very good start. Yeah, I think I'm okay with getting away from this whole idea that we need like a complete number 9. I know a lot of people want that, and I get why you want that. But if we just brought in a bunch of really good forwards, like Leonide is saying Nkunku, I think he's out of our league right now. But bring in Nkunku, bring in Cody Gakpo, bring in Gabriel Jesus, bring in Rafael Leao, bring in those types of players and just put them all out there together and watch us score goals. I don't think it's that difficult. Another player that I really like, I don't think we'll get him because he's Italian and they tend not to come to the Premier League like that. But I really like Scamacca. I really like Scamacca a lot. If I had to pick like the perfect center forward, like if I wanted to get like a complete 9 type, would be him. But he has the skills. He has a rocket of a shot. He's 6'4", but he's not slow. Like Scamacca is like, I mean, they're saying he's like Ibrahimovic, like reincarnated. I don't know if he's that good, but I really like Scamacca. I really wish like those Italian players would leave there and come to the Premier League, like some of them would, because he's very good. I really like him, but I do think that Scamacca will end up will end up wherever. If Osimhen leaves Napoli, he would end up there. If Lautaro leaves Inter, he'll end up there. Like, he'll be the next guy to go to like a top club in Serie A. But I really like Scamacca. I wish he would leave Italy, but I know he won't. And I wonder if that's kind of like a prerequisite to get into the Italian national team, is to stay in that league. I wonder if that's kind of like why they don't go, you know. I don't know. I'm just making up shit. Yo-Yo says people want the phenomenon or the king clones. Amira, excellent point. What did Amira say? Amira says we judge our players by asking if they would get into City, Liverpool squad. What better way than to get players from those teams? I mean, that's a very, very good point. And I mean, if you're taking players off of Liverpool and Man City, I said the only players I wouldn't take from City right now are Nathan Ake, Mendy, and Zach Steffen. Anybody else I would take. And I'm not like ashamed to say so, because they would improve us and we try to play in a similar way. Liverpool, not as much, but like, yeah, I would take those players. So taking somebody like Gabriel Jesus right now is not really, I don't think, a big deal. If we were doing it in the next 2 or 3 seasons, then maybe we've made a mistake. All right, you guys. I know you guys want to go and watch the Champions League. It looks like Villarreal have already scored, which is crazy because I just put out a video where I said I thought that tie was done. So, yeah, probably going to get cooked later. Fun. But enjoy the Champions League games, or the Champions League game today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This was so much fun, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. Come back tomorrow, see if there's some more news. But thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.